Hello students, so here I am going to discuss with you paper 2026, which was full of surprise. However, on a candid analysis of this paper, I would say that this paper was most of the questions were of moderate level. Just 2 or 3 questions were of difficult level. However, in the RC question, there was a big shock because the number of questions it was supposed to be around 27 or 29. 29 was asked last year. This time it was only 23 questions. So 23 questions they asked, but number of passages was fewer. It was only 11 passages. So 11 passages means that it was going to give you less cognitive load. 11 passages, based on that 23 questions, and you remember only 2 questions of assumptions have been asked. Most of you were just terrified of assumption, so assumption ki sirf 2 question hai, and which were quite easy. However, a shocker was that ki interpersonal skills, IPS and communication skill, com skill, from this section they gave 6 questions purely on communication skill. So it was a dormant section for the last 11 years. They have not asked a single question from this. Suddenly UPSC gave the question of this nature. However, if one was attentive to evaluate the options, and he would be able to get these get the answers correct. So I'm going to start this session with this B series, and the first question here is of communication. The first question is not communication. The first one is the critical reasoning based. It is a statement nature, statement argument type of questions that you need to establish the correlation among the given statements and find out the correct option. Then from question number 2 onwards, it is the communication, interpersonal skills and communication question. So let's take the first question. Yes, so here is the first S1. It says protecting the environment is an existential exigency, which means emergency that needs to be dealt with for humans given the impact of environmental degradation on climate change. Right, so it is saying that it is something which is an emergency that needs to be dealt with. Second says scientific consensus. Consensus means agreement has not been achieved with regard to the extent of the contribution of human intervention to climate change. The consensus has not been achieved that how much human needs to contribute to contain climate degradation, right? So that is not fixed. And third says environmental activism includes climate alarmism and other extremist points of view that often become the focus of climate change deniers. So here there are 2 groups: environmental activists, environmental activism, and the environmental deniers, right? So sometimes environmental activism goes to extreme level also, and which is used by the climate deniers, climate change deniers, as a counter argument. Now look at the options. The correct option we need to identify here. So here you have first statement which says S3 is a counterpoint to S1. S3 is a counterpoint. Counterpoint means that it is direct rebuttal to the given point. You look at S1 here. It is talking about that environmental degradation is a kind of exigency that needs to be attended, right? Whereas the third says environmental activism, it talks about the 2 groups that we have, right? So obviously it is not the counter argument. For the counter argument, both needs to be at the opposite end, sitting 180-degree opposite to each other, which is not the case here, right? So of course the first statement is not correct. The first is out. Hence option B and C are gone. Now second is the decider, because 3 is present both places. Second says S3 is unconnected. S3 is unconnected to S1 and S2. अब S3 is unconnected to S1 and S2. You see here S3 is connected to S1 and S2 because they are talking about the environmental issue, right? So S3 is talking about the scientific consensus is not there that how much contribution from human is required to deal with climate degradation, and Then third talks about that the environmental activism is there. So they are connected. We cannot say they are unconnected because the same area they belong to, same topic they belong to. Hence the second is incorrect. So your answer should be 3. Right? Since second is incorrect, so all 3 options are gone. Now what third says, S2 could be the reason for S3. Students, if you remember, I have told you time and time again during the classes that always look for the safer expressions. If examiner uses the word of possibility, then the chances are that option would be correct. Here it says S2 could be the reason for S3. It could be. It is not saying it is the reason. There is a possibility. Yes, S2 and S3, and S2 has given you the reason that scientific consensus is not there, has not been achieved. That how much with regard to the extent of the contribution of human intervention to climate change. So of course when the authority, the scientists are the authority, when they have not fixed this thing, they have not, there's no consensus among them, it means they might be of different point of view. So certainly the environmental groups and the deniers, they will they will diverge. So certainly this is related to it. It could be, yes, it is giving a kind of reason for that. So S2 could be the reason for S3. Your third statement is the correct statement. So this question number 1 was it was just a critical reasoning based statement nature based question. Now coming to question number 2, it's a 2 list and you have to match both lists. Right, here the relationship category is given, here the communication type is given. The communication type is downward communication, upward communication, we have horizontal and diagonal communication, formal, informal setup, right, open-ended and close-ended. Close-ended may when the answer is generally one-worded, yes or no. So whenever an authority speaks to its subordinate, generally the communication is of close-ended type, when they just seek approval, they seek they just try to confirm whether something has been done or not. So yes and no type answers. But open-ended is that when it is a conversational approach, when the information is, taken and given. So let's look at this. With this understanding, first you look at B option. It says between judge and lawyers in court. So certainly between judge and lawyers in court, it will be formal, no doubt, and open-ended. Why open-ended? Because whenever the lawyers are supposed to give the argument, and then the judges, they ask the questions. The lawyers explain them. So in a way, it's a two-way type of communication where the conversation on the conversational mode. So it is of course open-ended. Formal is also written here, formal and firm, but it is not always firm, it is more of open-ended because the judges ask the questions to the lawyers, they sometimes give a counter argument on their own, they try to clear some doubts. So certainly B is connected to third one. Now between Vice Chancellor and Deputy Registrar, a Vice Chancellor is the top post there in the university and Deputy Registrar is there. So an authority is speaking to its subordinate. So chances are that of course it will be formal, not informal, and firm. It will be formal and firm communication. So B will be 3 and C will be 4. D between peers and co-workers. Peers and co-workers जब सारे बराबर के लोग हैं, तो of course the communication will be informal and open-ended because they sometimes seek information, they talk, they converse. And A says between cricket captain and team members. Cricket captain and team members, informal and firm, because cricket captain has an authority here. So firmness may be there, right? So this is the correct combination and it was an easier question. तो आपका option इसमें होना चाहिए B का 3 and C 4. B 3 and C 4. It means your answer should be option and then A is 1. Your option should be A. Right? Option A is the correct answer for this. The file that I have here has lots of writing on it, but I will make a double tick on my answers. So now here second question or third question of communication. tool of communication and purpose, right? So communication tool and purpose, both are given, we have to match it. Now, so the easiest thing here that you can look at is minutes. You know, in the meetings we have minutes where the detail of the decisions taken on the meeting, what happened, that is the whole repository is prepared. So here D should be connected to second one, D to record decisions, right? Whereas BCC, which means blind carbon copy, blind carbon copy, because it is generally confidential, right? So here it's an email feature, you all know. So BCC may the receiver cannot see that who else has got the mail. So to inform confidentially, it means that C should be 2 and D should be 1. C should be 2 and D should be 1. And here we have this answer. So the answer should be C, C2, D1. Now I explain to you, B is flyer, and everybody knows flyer. All the coaching students know it better than others. Flyer, you know. So here, to disseminate, yani spread non-targeted information, certainly connected to that. And memorandum is, right, to intimate a directive. So A is 3, right? So your answer for this one is C. Question number 4, very interesting question. It is based on interpersonal skills, how to solve conflicts, right? The question is, on the following would consider the most appropriate directives in resolving interpersonal conflict. In an office with culturally diverse personnel are there, how will you deal with conflict management, conflicts there? So, you know, second is a kind of blunder here, allow conflict to resolve naturally over time to set an appropriate precedent of leadership. Not at all. If you let it happen and you have simply ignored it, and ignorance is not leadership, ignorance is not going to answer the question. So second is totally wrong. It means B and D are out. Third one is the decider. One says direct personnel to practice activities that are the cultural markers of diverse groups. Direct personnel to practice activities that are the cultural markers of diverse groups. Okay, so here you direct them to, you know, there they may take it with a pinch of salt. It may not be taken easily, you know, smoothly by them. So that's the reason it does not address the issue very well. Here, encourage personnel to seek each other's perspective. That is a better choice because you encourage here. Here is a kind of imposition on the personnel. So this may, you know, worsen the situation. So that's the reason the correct option should be third, C option. So all those who have done emotional intelligence would be able to do this. And ethics, integrity and aptitude, you have one subject. So that must have helped you. Question number 5 here of communication. Here barrier to communications are given and examples are given. So we have to match it. Now barrier to communication you all understand well. That's all those hurdles, right? So here semantic is something that is related to the word and its meaning. So semantic is misunderstanding the meaning of a word. Yani A is connected to 2. A is connected to 2. It means A cannot be the answer. B cannot be the answer. A2, yani C and D are there. Now then they have given a word cognitive. Cognitive is that when the load is there more, you know, when the person is unable to deal with because of the mental state he is in. So the meaning of fear of social esteem, information overload. Yes, B should be 4. So B4, we have B4 here, so D should be the correct answer. A2, B4. Up C says organizational. Organizational may, what do you have? You have hierarchy system, right, where the authority and you cannot get the feedback, you cannot speak more often to them, and that's the reason organizational is also sometimes a barrier. In especially those companies which follow very strict, very stringent policies, and they do not let the communication flow naturally. So because of the hierarchy, that could be a barrier. तो कुछ ऐसी companies में हो सकता है lack of feedback is connected. तो C1 absolutely correct. And affective is that when person is going through negative emotions, right? So here obviously suppose somebody is very angry, how will he communicate, how will he understand others? So this is a fear of, so affective is fear of social stigma. It's a good example. So when somebody is going through fear or any other emotion, anxiety, anger, D is the right answer. Now question number 6. So you are required to design a questionnaire to be filled on location by visitors based on the following objectives. So objective is to determine the feasibility of setting up a family oriented vacation resort in the vicinity of a lake destination in the mountains. Okay. So which of the following heads would include in the questionnaire to make it most appropriate for your purpose? The examiner wants to evaluate your understanding of the situation and objective of communication, right? So which heads should be included? Of course, size of family matters because it is the feasibility of setting up family oriented vacation. The size of family, no doubt, everybody must have chosen. Budget, yes, a very, very important head, because unless you know that, how will you go ahead? So 1 and 2 are absolutely correct, right? Since 2 is not present in A option, so I eliminate that. Now 1 is not present in D option, so I eliminate that. So we are left with 1, 2 and 4 and 1 and 2. It means 4 is the decider. So let's go to the fourth one. It says food allergies and dietary restrictions. Food allergies and dietary restriction, I think it should be correct also, because the family oriented, you are exploring the feasibility of setting up a family oriented vacation. So since of course they will come, stay and have food there. So this particular record given in fourth one will also be helpful. Hence, I think the answer should be B option. B is the better option. So 1, 2 and 4. And I must tell you that generally for this kind of question there is no negative marking. So I hope that UPSC does not go for a negative marking for especially this question, right? Because here you have to use your knowledge and you have to think. So the perspective matters. Now the last question, question number 7. There were 6 questions of communication. 1 we have done of critical reasoning. Now this is circular letters. Which of the following statements are correct regarding circular? Circular letters are the part of business communication where everybody is informed about something. It may be internal or external, both types of communication it can do. तो कभी-कभी एक लेटर होता है ना कि एम्प्लॉइज को भी भेजा गया, इन्वेस्टर्स को भी, स्टेक होल्डर्स को भी, सभी के पास आ गया. Circular letters are usually addressed to a group of people. Yes, it is not personalized to a group of people. Absolutely correct. So we look at option combination. देखिए elimination will always help you, particularly this paper. इसका मतलब B is not the answer, right? So we are left to second statement says, अच्छा here I must read fourth first. Circular letters are less cost effective. अब circular letters is going to everyone, so of course it will be more cost effective, not less cost effective, because the personalized letter will have to be sent to each individual, costing more to the company. So certainly fourth is wrong. So when fourth is wrong, so I can remove. B is already gone, C is also gone. Yani 2 is the decider. Let's look at 2. Non-standard and customized content is typical of circular letter. Customized content is not there. It is general information important for all is used there. So of course second is also wrong. So when second is wrong, you are left with D option, 1 only. So students, that was part of communication skill. Let's now move to our reading comprehension section, right? And so here the passage number 1. I must tell you that passage number 1 was more based on the language component, very different from the kind of passages UPSC has been asking for a couple of years. तो आपको देखें इसमें काफी लैंग्वेज का यूज किया गया है. सिंस आई वोंट रीड द पैराग्राफ, आई विल रीड द क्वेश्चन एंड दिस वे विल टेक लेस टाइम. So and I will explain the statements there. Which of the following statements are correct? Achha, this particular paper also demand that you read the question carefully, whether they are asking correct or incorrect. The first says radical action can also be attributed to mild surrender where one acts against societal expectations. Radical action, yes. The way radical is described in the passage is very unique in a way, because the radical is generally taken as a very extreme, a very intense word. But यहाँ देखिए, author कहता है, it talks about Hugh Grant The actor deserves empathy. There he was in the royal box, okay, watching the men's doubles quarterfinals, when the actor did something quietly radical. And what was that? That he napped, you know, he just he drowsed there for some time, and which was of course against the decorum, because he was supposed to watch the match, but the author says that he did this. The author does not blame him. So the first is absolutely correct. Radical action can also be attributed to mild surrender, where one acts against societal expectations, and the societal expectation and surrender is described by the author. This particular action of Mr. Grant is analyzed by the author, and he says that what he did, he says, so praise be to Grant for serving up an unexpected ace. In that small delicious moment, he didn't merely catch 40 wings. To catch 40 wings means to sleep shortly. He made an elegant case for surrender. So surrender is there, not to laziness, but to limits, right? Because this actor's age is also mentioned that he is 64 years old. A very fine actor he is, 64-year-old, right? So the first is absolutely correct. Second says submitting to other one's limitations given the effect of age and other factors ought not be conflated with laziness, not should be related with laziness. Of course, he has said it's more of limit rather than laziness. So second is no doubt directly coming from passage. So 1 and 2 of question 11 are correct. 1 and 2 are correct, and you'll see 1 and 2 are present in A and C. Right, so B and D are gone. 1 and 2. So 3 is the decider. It means UPSC made us read all the paragraph statements. Leading man usually refers to one who plays the lead role in a movie. In this instance, the implication is that Hugh Grant is performing the role of not an action hero, but that of a resting one. Yes, this is the right implication, because in the last sentence the author has mentioned clearly that but to limits to the body's quiet wisdom over society's relentless performance metrics. Wimbledon had its tennis. The perpetually sleep deprived discovered a leading man not of action but of rest. So this is the source for answer to the question, to the third statement. It means all the three statements are correct statements, right? So C should be the answer. Question number 12. So this question was more based on language. Hugh Grant was watching from the royal box the men's semi-final. Up semi-final is incorrect because the quarter-final is mentioned in the paragraph. So it was like an underarm ball in cricket. कि थोड़ा सा कुछ data distortion कर दिया, which was of very simple nature. Crushing weight of being singles quarterfinals. So 1 is wrong. One is wrong, so option A is gone. Now 2 and 3, both we have to read. Your third says Grant subjects the demands of society to the wisdom of his body. Yes, it is clearly given there. Second one says the phrase unexpected ace in the context uses a term from the game of tennis to highlight. Now unexpected ace is used, this terminology is used in tennis, where a player serves in such a way that the other player is taken aback, right? He is not alert and he is unable to do that, to deal with it. So Grant here also did an unexpected ace. In the context uses a term from the game of tennis to highlight Hugh Grant's somewhat uncharacteristic act of catching 40 wings, an act that is viewed with opprobrium. Opprobrium is like something which is of intense disgrace, heavily shameful. So because of the intensity of this word, this statement is doubtful. Otherwise, every other thing written in the statement was aligning with the paragraph. I mean, it was going to be correct, except this word, because it is too intense words. So that's the reason I think third is the correct statement. Second is doubtful. Doubtful just because of the word opprobrium. We cannot choose the second one. So third only should be the answer, and your answer should be B for this. Now passage number 2. The process by which countries close their labor productivity gap with the technology is based on convergence theory. So convergence theory is described here. 2 questions are based on this. Question number 13, which conclusions are correct? Acha, multiple statements are given. Students, I have told you in the class that conclusion is a final summation of the paragraph, as well as conclusion is also at times used as a synonym for inference, because the meaning of inference is a logical conclusion. So here 4 statements, whenever multiple statements are given, the chances are that statements are going to behave like an inference. So and for an inference you need to have the data present in the paragraph. Multiple statements also mean that it will be challenging for you for the reading, time ज़्यादा आपका spent होगा. तो जल्दी से देखिए इसको. In the breakaway phase, economic progress is slow for the technology followers. Is slow. Let's check the data for this. Breakup phase is described. 3 eras of economy are described. During the breakaway phase, the per capita income of the technology leaders rises but is unchanged for the technology followers. So per capita income remains unchanged. Ab unchanged is one thing, whereas calling it slow is another thing. Slow means that making some progress, though in comparison to something else it is relatively less, so it is called slow. But unchanged means it is not changing. So of course the first one is a data distortion because of this word. One is wrong. Second is the catch-up phase. The second phase, leaders stagnate and followers therefore close the gap between them and the leaders. Okay, so it means the second part is given here as a valid reason for that. कि catch-up phase में क्या होता है? Leaders stagnate. Stagnate is the word here. Like earlier the word was slow. Stagnate means now they have become constant. They are not changing. Constant हो गए. They hit a plateau. अब ये जब constant हो गया, stagnate हो गया, therefore the gap is closed by the followers. This is the second statement. Let's go to the catch-up phase and evaluate it. This is the way of dealing with the multiple statements. Always go to the relevant part. So देखिए यहाँ here author talks about the catch-up phase. In the catch-up phase, the followers adopt the new technology and close their per capita income gap with the technology leaders. But it is not saying that technology leaders stagnate. Maybe technology leaders' income is also increasing, but the rate of increase in followers is much bigger in comparison to leaders. That's the reason they are able to close the gap. And we do not know from this statement that they stagnate. Stagnate means that they do not move. So that's why the second statement is also not correct. 1 and 2. Now 3 and 4 are given here. So because of that, 1 and 2 gone here, 1 and 2 gone. Right. They are asking about the correct conclusion. Now third says in the fine-tuning phase, fine-tuning technology is exhausted as it were, and both leaders and followers attempt to extract leftover benefits, leading to more or less similar per capita income levels. It directly follows from the paragraph. Fine-tuning era is given in the last. In the fine-tuning phase, where participants try to extract the remaining benefits from an increasingly exhausted technology, leaders and followers have similar per capita income. So third is without any distortions, without any discrepancy, it is talking the same thing. Fourth, industrial technology followed scavenging, which preceded hunting, which itself was followed by farming. Now look at this order. This question is based on a fact. So for the factual details, you need to go back. Look here. The process begins with the development of new technology such as scavenging. Scavenging 3 million ago. It means scavenging happened first. It happens first. 3 million years ago. Hunting, after that hunting. Farming 12,000 years ago. Farming followed that. And then technology, industrial technology, little more than 200 years ago. So industrial technology, IT after that, right? So this is the order. and the fourth statement is giving the same order. It's like a reasoning question where you are setting the order. Industrial technology followed scavenging. Yes, it followed, which preceded hunting, which itself was followed by farming. So we have third and fourth as correct options. A should be the answer. So UPSC played with words, and you were supposed to read the question very carefully and then look at the discrepancies created there. अब आइए 14 पे देखिए, कहता है the convergence model divides nations into 3 phases of economic progress. It is again distorting the data. The passage has clearly mentioned that 3 categories of the convergence model divides economic eras into 3 phases. Economic eras, not the nations. Right? The model divides nation into 3 phases, not nations but eras. So first is wrong. First is wrong. It means you are left with option A, B, C. Ab now look at, I will take you to very interesting and laughable option, fourth statement. It says the time period covered by the convergence theory presented herein encompasses, as mentioned, these many years. What they are simply trying to befool the students. Because 3 million years ago scavenging started. Scavenging 3 million years ago, MYA, and then 1 million ago farming started. 1 million, they have added it, 3 plus 1, 12,000 years ago agriculture, and 200 years ago. So the sum total they have given here, and you know, since it is oldest one, so of course this is totally wrong to add all the years, right? The time is same unit, so their time flows in the same way. So जो 3 million है, within that fold 1 million, 12,000 and 200 will be part of that. 1 and 4th are wrong. So dear, when 1 is wrong, your option D is gone, 4th is wrong, A is gone. Now second is the decider. Second says at the heart of the convergence theory is the closing of the gap between labor and productivity. Again, this is totally wrong, and I think everybody must have noticed it. It's not labor and productivity. It is by which countries close their labor productivity gap with the technology leader. So labor productivity is used here as a term. There is no competition between the two. So the second is incorrect, right? One incorrect, second incorrect. We are left with third. Technology leaders typically have arrived earlier at different economic eras. Yes, so our answer should be C only. They have typically arrived earlier at different economic eras. Yes, they have typically arrived, as author has discussed, first the technology leaders and then came the followers, right? So in the different eras, we see that they were there leading. So that was, let's now take the next passage. Now this question, they always write your answer should be based solely on the passage. The word solely should be noticed. Of course, cannot notice in exam hall when you are in a hurry. So, dear, this passage talks of previous waves of customer service technology. Now, first question number 22 of B series, which among the following statement most appropriately reflects the point of view of the given passage. Now, so many main idea based questions we solve in the class. But UPSC shocked us because they stopped asking main idea. I think just 1 or 2 questions of main idea have been asked here. The point of view of the author. If AI were to take over customer service, there would be no work left for human subjects to do. No work left, not given in the passage. Because the work will be left. Author says that we will focus more on creative and rewarding tasks rather than those logistical and, you know, boring same things. So new things can be done. So A is out. B says irritating voice menus and email could not achieve human redundancy to the extent that AI might. It is rather contradicting the passage, because author has said that AI will, though AI is going to take over, even with AI we will have work for human being. They are now free to do more creative work. They will now be able to more focus on the feedback and work upon the new challenging things, and those the secondary type of task can be given to the machines. So this is saying it to the extent that AI might, human redundancy like when something becomes superfluous, I mean no more needed, because it is too much. Yeah, it is secondary, so it is not needed. But human is not redundant according to the para. So B is irrelevant, rather opposing. See, the value of human intervention in the workplace affected by AI might be enhanced through redirection towards more fulfilling tasks. Absolutely correct. C option is the correct answer. D says, unlike previous waves in customer service technology, AI has raised the alarm of worker replacement. Not the worker replacement. This is not the point of view of the author. So C was the answer, and the question number 22 was a main idea based question. Now 23. Three statements. Which of the following conclusions made on the basis of the given passage? A kind of inference question. The first one, the advent of new customer service technology had invariably sparked fears about job losses. Invariably means always. It has sparked fears about job losses. If you look at the first statement, it says previous waves of customer service technology, including email and those pesky means annoying voice menus, stoked concerns of job losses, only for them to fail to materialize. Right, the job losses did not take place. Including email and those pesky voice menus, stoked concerns. So the advent of new customer service technology had invariably sparked fears about job losses. You see, it says invariably it has done so. It means always. Personally, I believe that though there is some justification, but I think that author here has mentioned these waves of customer service technology in a very general way. He's not going too extreme or too specific about that every time it has happened. Every time there's a new technology wave and the people had the worry of the technology, job losses. He has mentioned that thing, but in a very general way. It's not so strong way. So invariably means that always, not a single time this pattern has been missed, not a single time. And that's the reason I'm doubtful about the 1-1 and I'm not choosing it. Right. Second says, often it is found that instead of job losses, alternative channels for employee engagement are discovered while certain tasks are replaced by technology. Often is found that instead of job losses, alternative channels for employee engagement are discovered. Yes, it is often, and I have told you often even for one can be taken, and with AI the author's view is clearly given there. Right. So the second one is the correct statement. Third says the advent of technology inevitably leads to stressful outcomes. Inevitably is again a very strong word. Leads to stressful outcomes. No, author is rather contradictory. This statement is rather contradicting the author because he said that it may AI may give some fulfilling tasks to human beings. So third is also wrong, and to me the answer should be B, 2 only. Right. So I'm not taking the first one, and I have doubts about the first one because of the way the examiner has written it in a very strong manner. Next question is surprising. Very narrative is written here. Both questions are quite simple. Question number 24. Conclusion is are correct. 4 conclusions are written here. Now first one. All landlords essentially have some goodness trapped within them, or it is going against the para. Author says that the landlords in general are selfish. Rai Sahab was an exception as given by the passage. So first goes against the paragraph. A is out. Second, the common grazing grounds of a village are intended for use by the cattle of that village. Right? We can hold it. There's nothing wrong in it, so we hold it. Third says landlords who believe in tradition tend to be more concerned about their tenants. Landlords who believe in tradition tend to be more concerned about their tenants, but the tradition is one thing. About the Rai Sahab, who has been portrayed here in a positive light, author clearly says, but the Rai Sahab is still held to the old values. He's not saying tradition. Right? Traditions could be right, could be wrong, could be evil. Right? Sati Pratha was a tradition. So many traditions, ill traditions we have in history. Right? So old values. So dear, old values is one thing, and other landlords If he had been one of those selfish zamindars, he would have said the cattle could go to hell, that there was no reason for him to miss the chance of to make a little money. So, in fact, the tradition was somewhat opposite. So dear, the third statement should be read very carefully. It is incorrect. Unfortunately, the student whose copy I am reading has chosen third one. I don't know whose copy it is, but the third is ticked there. So land also believe tradition is incorrect. It is not equal to the way value is mentioned, and the value mentioned in the passage is the positive value is mentioned. Winds later in the day tend to be cooler. It is going against the passage. Of course, nobody will choose it. So second statement we are left with. Isliye answer should be D, Delhi. For question number 24 in B series, the answer should be D for Delhi. Let's go to next question. Question number 25. Which of the statement is not correct? Here statements are not correct. Not correct you are supposed to choose. I don't know how many of you missed this, though in the test, in our iconic test series, we gave deliberately such question that in one or two, not many, but in one or two questions, not correct was asked, just to make you alert. And that's the reason I keep saying in the classes that always read the question first, so that you be clear that what you are going to find. So dear, the first one, the land holdings of Rai Sahab were currently not being used for farming. Land holdings, it is just one piece of land is being discussed here, which was used for common grazing, common ground. Cattle from the nearby village came to the, and there was still a cool freshness in the air. This bit of land. So we can't choose this land holding of Rai Sahab were currently not being used for farming. This one particular, maybe the rest of the land, so this first is out. Incorrect. Second, temperamentally Rai Sahab was greedy as other landlords. Absolutely incorrect. It cannot be ascertained that Rai Sahab could have made some money by leasing out the graze. He did not lease out because it's given that he just said he took care of his tenants rather than money. So third is absolutely incorrect. It may be asserted that Rai Sahab valued his tenants and wanted to protect their livelihood. Easier, very easy question. So fourth is the correct answer. And we are supposed to find out the incorrect one. So incorrect, 1 incorrect, 2 incorrect, 3 incorrect, only fourth is correct, so fourth should not be in answer. Any 1, 2, 3 should be the answer. 1, 2 and 3 means D is the correct answer. Now, we have this passage, the key source of the battle for clean skies and clear lungs is the fuel we burn, from household chulas to the thermal power plants. I need to read it just to, to freshen it up in my mind. The key source of the battle for clean skies, the clear lungs, is the fuel we burn. The fuel we burn, from household chulas to the thermal power plants. In most cases, it is biomass or coal. The Supreme Court banned the use of pet coke. The dirtiest of such fuels. The Delhi government banned the use of coal, right? That's the reason I keep saying that always underline the nouns, the region, the paragraph talks about pet coke. Supreme Court here, Delhi government here, was later extended to the international NCR. It was also agreed that the thermal power plants would clean up or shut down. It was also agreed. Action on this has been patchy, to say the least. The lesson from the transition to CNG is that people need alternatives for a ban to be effective. When diesel buses were stopped, CNG supply had to be assured. It also had to be feasible in terms of cost. The SC agreed that fiscal measures were needed. Fiscal measures were needed to keep clean fuel cheaper than dirty fuel. Now, even as coal is banned, the price of natural gas makes industry uncompetitive. So the point is clear here, right? So author has covered different points. Now coming to the inference, this question asked about inference. Frankly speaking, there were many questions of inferences this year. Somewhere the name inference is written, sometimes it was just written as conclusion. So the first one, the source of the energy we consume is the key to the battle for cleaner air. Yes, the source of energy we consume as chulhas and coal and all that is given there. The one is correct. Bans are effective where the will is strong and the people are convinced that such bans are for the greater good of society. Nowhere the author is talking about the people and their will. The passage is very clear and is only talking about certain points. So it is coming from outside of the passage. And that's the reason your answer should be solely based on the passage. No matter how balanced the option is, if it doesn't come through the para, it should be kicked out. So dear, second is wrong, A and B are gone. One is correct, third is the decider. There is judicial approval for a policy that intervenes fiscally to facilitate benevolent pricing for cleaner fuel. The third last statement you look at, C option should be the correct one. Last statement for third one, I show you what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court agreed that fiscal measures were needed to keep clean fuel cheaper than dirty fuel. So the judicial approval for a policy that intervenes fiscally to facilitate benevolent pricing for directly, representing that particular idea in different language, but the same idea is there. So dear, your answer is 1 and 3. Now coming to 37. So question number 36, I think I have clearly mentioned the answer. 1 and 3, which is C option. 37, correct statement is asked. Thermal power stations in Delhi were required to summarily shut down. Thermal stations in Delhi were required to summarily shut down. Summarily means like straight away shut down. Immediately bas band kar do without any discussion or following the process. But author says clearly that they were asked to clean up or shut down. So this is incorrect. Second, CNG supplies had to be assured once diesel vehicles were prohibited. Obviously, CNG directly follows the para. Third says the Supreme Court banned the use of coal. Pet coke they banned. Delhi government banned the coal. So of course a distortion here. So third is wrong. And your only correct statement is second. So the answer should be C. And I think everybody, most of you must have done it, or everybody must have done it correctly. It was an easy question. So there were many, questions which comes in the category of easy or moderate. Majority of the questions were easy and moderate in RC. Now comes a question of assumption. India is starting to deploy AI for critical use cases such as weather forecasting, pest. India is starting, right? And control and crop. However, penetration is limited to a small subset of tech-savvy farmers. Now, I remember this paragraph, so I take you to the question number 41. Need to find the valid assumption. Now, an assumption should support the para. Data must be present. First one, agriculture productivity has marched ahead in the West because of the economies of scale facilitated by the adoption of AI tools. You must look at the verb form. That's the reason I keep saying, repeating in the classroom that always sentence, statements, it's where is its verb. Verb will give you the clear picture because they sometimes make the changes of time, of sense, probability, certainty with the verb forms. So agriculture productivity has marched ahead in the West. Productivity आगे बढ़ गई है, बहुत आगे चली गई है, has marched ahead, perfect tense is not suitable because it is very much on the anvil. होने वाला है सब कुछ, ये बता रहा है. In the US and in Europe, generative AI tools have started is the word, offering precision farming at scale, integrating large data sets. ये सब हो रहा है वहां पर, right? But the productivity is the end result, which is not covered in the paragraph. So dear, we find that there is no data for the has marched ahead for this at scale. So one is wrong. Second, affordable AI tools rendered available in local languages can help AI-based solutions reach. Yes, it follows the recommendation of the author, and I told you that always notice the RX. Author has mentioned here the recommendations. For at-scale integration and accessibility of AI tools in India, it would be helpful to develop Indian languages-based AI tools for smallholder farmers, partner with the EG Techs to create affordable AI solutions and disseminate and spread AI-based advisory services. So 3 recommendations, 3 RX are given here, right? So dear, second is following that. Second is correct, first wrong. Third, so though penetration is yet low, critical application areas deploying AI tools are already in use in India. Yes, it is also correct. Third is also correct. So 2 and 3 and D should be the answer. I show you in case you are doubtful about the third one. The source for third is that in India, a small number of farmers. However, penetration is limited to a small subset of tech-savvy farmers in India, right? But they are, so they are there. Though the number is small, but they are there. So that's why third is correct. Now, next question, 42. Which statements are not correct? Not correct. Quote, tech-savvy farmers will drive the ag tech companies of the future. How we do not know that they will drive. Certainly they will become the CEO and the innovation leaders there. We don't have data for this. They may be, they may not be. We don't have. Second, the development. Acha, so 1 is out, B is out. Now we have 2 and 4 and 3 only. So 2 says the development of advisory services by the government programs for the use of AI tools in agriculture would be helpful. Yes, it would be helpful. Following it, it means we have got our answer. It should be C. I need not to go for 4. But for the sake of discussion only, I tell you how 3 is wrong. In the US and Europe, AI tools have replaced. So second time in the same paragraph, the examiner is using the tense, the verb form to beat you. US AI tools have replaced traditional agricultural practices. How do we know they have replaced? They are being used for precision, but the older ones have been out, not given. So that's the reason it's not correct. So never jump the guns. Always be mindful of the data. The integration of large data sets for use in real-time agroeconomic analysis is already a reality. Yes, it is a reality. It is happening there in West also. So here, आपका answer हो गया 2 and 4. C for question number 42. Juvenile Justice Act, JJ Act 2015 allows for the possibility for trying adolescents above 16 as adults. If as adults, condition क्या है? If they are accused of committing a heinous offense, then then these juveniles are equal to adults. If they commit heinous offense. What is a heinous offense described here? Offense is what with a minimum punishment of 7 years. Offences such as culpable homicide and causing death is by negligence, which are common in drunken driving cases, are not heinous offences because they do not have a prescribed minimum punishment. So it means for a heinous crime, we must have the minimum punishment as the criteria, right? So for a heinous crime offense, to qualify it as an heinous offense, it must have minimum punishment. This is given here. The JJ Act amended in 2021. Now you should put a slash here because the transition to 21 amendment now categorizes an offense that has no minimum sentence but has a maximum sentence. So 2021 is talking about maximum sentence of 7 years or more as a serious offense. Now it is a new word terminology, serious offense. Here it is heinous, now serious offense, which nonetheless in the opinion of activists does not merit the transfer of a case to the adult criminal justice system. I'll leave it. So dear, 2 types of crimes, heinous and serious, are described. The criterion, one with minimum, the other with maximum. They are mentioned here. Now 2 questions, very small para. You can, and question number 49. Conclusion is valid. Only a serious offense as categorized by the revised JJ Act, serious offense, justifies the transfer of a case to the adult judicial system. Only a serious offense. The serious offense may, it is not given that it is being transferred to adult judicial system. That was given in the amendment of, that was given in the context of heinous offense. So one is wrong. And moreover, the word only should also perk up, your senses should perk up here by looking at this word. So one is absolutely wrong. Second says the JJ Act 2021 categorizes an offense as a serious offense based on the maximum sentence it carries, rather than on the minimum sentence. Yes, maximum sentence 2021 में refer कर लीजिए. And dear students, that's the reason I say कि आपको reading में कम समय लगाना चाहिए. You should spend less time in reading, more time in confirming the answer because of the multi statements. So it says but has a maximum sentence of 7 years, not minimum. That has no minimum sentence. So we find that the statement number 2, offense, serious offense based on the maximum sentence, is correct. Follows the paragraph. B is the correct answer for question number 49. B 50. Which of the following statements are correct? If an offense has no minimum prescribed punishment, it cannot be considered heinous as per the JJ Act 2015. If it has no minimum prescribed, absolutely correct, because the heinous crime is described here. Offense is one with a minimum punishment of 7 years. Right? It cannot be considered. So then he has given the examples of culpable homicide and causing death by negligence, which are common in drunken driving cases, are not heinous. Why they are not heinous? Because they do not have a prescribed minimum punishment. It means minimum punishment is a criterion. First is correct. From this part, first is correct. Second, as per the JJ Act 2021, an offence for which there is a provision for a maximum sentence of 7 years or more, but no minimum sentence, is to be considered a serious offence. Yes, you can go to the 2021. It follows that. Both are correct. C should be the correct answer for this question. So C should be chosen for this, for the JJ Act. I just need a second. So now we go to next passage. So here we have this passage, SARS-CoV-2. This passage has 3 questions based on it. So it was very good, a small para and 3 questions, 7.5 marks you can score in less time. This paragraph is written on a comparison format. That's the reason I discussed in the classroom about the structure of the passages, that they matter a lot. Here SARS-CoV-2 versus HMPV. How the viruses are different. What are the differences? These differences are highlighted here. Differences, right? Similarities are not discussed. Their effects and all that are mentioned. The question number 56. Which of the following conclusion is correct? Though SARS-CoV-2 and HMV are similar virus, not similar, don't go ahead because it has violated the passage, so 1 is wrong. Second, the 2 viruses have fundamentally different impacts. Yes, they have different impacts on human population and should not therefore be dealt with a similar manner. Of course, when they have so many differences, when the nature of this virus is different, so of course their effects are also different. So their dealing, I mean the way we need to deal with them should also be different. So though it is dealing is not directly given, but it is logically connected to the differences, the fundamental differences described before that. So second is correct. B should be the answer, and I am sure everybody must have chosen B for this. Question number 57. You need to find out which of the following reflect the intent of the author. Intent of the writer, quite close to main idea type of question, where the attitude of the author, any tone of the paragraph matters a lot. We discuss in brief the tone in the beginning of the classes. So this question relates with them. First says to evolve methodologies for objective analysis of the two. Methodologies is too broad a word. Author is merely talking about the differences between the virus of the 2 types of diseases. So evolve methodologies for objective analysis. He has not discussed methodology. Second, to establish the epidemiological similarities. Similarities again not given there. Differences are mentioned there. So that is foul. Third says to offer a better understanding of the remedies of HMV. No remedy has been described of HMPV. Only the differences and the other details, their effects are discussed. So none of the above. It's very rare that 3 statements and all are wrong, right? But it is 58. An inference question. HMPV has historically had longer documentation of studies when compared with SARS-CoV-2. Historically longer, it is given there, it is older one, and I take you to the passage about the documentation. Data support is present there. So when HMPV, and that's the reason I tell you that always make a slash when the author takes a turn to new subtopic, right? He was talking about SARS, from here he talks about HMPV. In contrast, people across the world have been exposed to HMPV for decades, and the virus is well studied. So it is well studied, of course, documentation. So 58 का first statement, longer documentation of study when compared with this, yes, it is comparatively new, 2019, so 1 is correct. And well studied supports that. 58 का second statement, The two viruses are different from each other and this results in markedly different outcomes amongst those affected. Yes, they are different, no doubt. And this results markedly different outcomes. Different outcomes are there. You can read the HMP when its effects, milder illness hai, deaths hai, rare hai with no longer term post-viral symptoms. But about the SARS, it is given that they have longer effects. Both viruses cause different severity of symptoms, particularly over the long term, right? In general, so the differences are being discussed. There is a strong seasonality seen in HMPV, unlike SARS. तो SARS में seasonality का भी effect नहीं है. तो dear, आपका second statement भी correct होगा. Two viruses are different from each other and this results in markedly different outcomes. Yes, second is also correct. Third says long-term impacts of the two viruses are dissimilar and this is an important differentiator. Yes, they are not similar, dissimilar, and this is an important differentiator between the important differentiation mentioned in the paragraph. So we take it. So dear, third is also correct. Okay, fourth says one of the common factors between the two viruses is seasonal specificity. No common factor nahi hai ye because seasonal specificity is there with HMPV. इसके साथ में नहीं है, SARS के साथ में. तो fourth is incorrect. When fourth is incorrect, your option C is gone. Unfortunately, the student has chosen it. 1, 2, 3 and B should have been chosen. So the paper required that you need to have an alert approach, read the passage quickly for all the multiple statements. Almost 80% question have multiple statements only. Always go back to the passage to confirm the answer. Now the passage is question number 67. It talks about sport is not just about winning medals or getting jobs. Let's go to the conclusion question. One of the easiest passage of 26 paper. So question number 61 asks about the conclusion, valid conclusion. One says sport is more than just games, it's a way of life. Yes, it's a way of life given in the paragraph. Need to show you. We need to develop a culture in which sport is seen as a way of life. So of course, sport is seen, any author believes so, that it is a way of life. One is correct. Second, sport can help mitigate the problems of seclusion among the young. Seclusion means separations. Yes, because the teamwork, it teaches them competitiveness, coordination, teamwork, ये सारा कुछ इसके साथ आ रहा है. तो of course seclusion के against है. Logical connection is there. 1 correct, 2 correct. Earning laurels in sport can help one secure a job on the basis of an assigned quota. Now 1 and 2 are correct. Look at the option combination. A is gone. We have B is also gone. Right. So we are left with C and D. 1, 2, 4, 1, 2. So any 3 and 4 are decider. Up 4 says standard corporate sector skills cannot be learned through sport. Up sport may, sports make one learn what sports can help tackle these problems. From sport you can learn time management, fitness, teamwork, coordination. Up teamwork, coordination, time management, all these are the basic corporate standard skills. So fourth goes against the paragraph. When fourth goes against the paragraph, it means these options are also incorrect. So we have 1, 2, 3 as the correct answer. D. 2 is correct. Now about the third, I show you where it comes from. Earning laurels in sport can help one secure a job on the basis of an assigned quota. This comes from the passage because the answer should be solely based on the passage. First sentence. A sport is not just about winning medals or getting jobs through a sport quota. It means if one is doing good in and winning medal, can get a job through sports quota. That's what the third statement was saying. So each statement belongs to the passage. And though 62 now, which are correct statements? Parents are not encouraging enough when it comes to children playing sport. They are not encouraging. We do not have the data, and please don't follow your own knowledge or your own impulses कि ये parents आजकल नहीं करते. No, it's not coming through the passage. So 1 is wrong. It is given that parents often say that the children are inactive, but they do not encourage is beyond the para. Second, participation in sporting activities can help develop life skills. Yes, life skills, team management and all are mentioned there. A sport as a way of life can help evolve the very nature of society itself. Read the last sentence. We need to develop a culture in which sport is seen as a way of life, a path to building a healthier, happier society. So it is going to change the society as well. So third is also correct, and your answer is 2 and 3, B option. So for question number 62, answer is B. Now comes this passage based on economy. How is deflation done? Most countries use method called double deflation, where input and output prices are deflated separately. Consider manufacturer. Now he is explaining that, an idea followed by explanation. Importing oil for use in production. If oil prices fall, output prices do not, and quantities remain the same. Real value added should not change. But if the same deflator is used for inputs and outputs, if the same deflator is used, and the deflator are in the double deflation, they are used separately for input and output. But if the same deflator is used for input and outputs, as in India, so India follows this trend, this process, it would look as if the manufacturer had become more productive. Right. Two questions are based on this. Correct statement need to find out. First says real value should not change in the instance of static output cost and unchanged quantities against falling oil prices. This statement is correct and it follows. I show you the source. Exactly the same point is written here. If oil, when author explains, consider manufacturer, where if oil prices fall, output prices do not, and quantities remain the same, real value added should not change. This underlying part is written in the first statement. Real value should not change in the instance of static output cost and unchanged quantities against falling oil. So first तो absolutely correct है. Second से कहता है deflators are to be used separately for inputs and outputs, and this is a practice universally adopted by all economies. It's already given that in India it is not followed. So second, and author also says that in most countries use a method called double, not all. So all is not given, so certainly second is incorrect. Answer should be A. Second question, number 67, assumption. Deflation strategies can be used to make manufacturers appear to be doing better than they actually are. Yes, the case of India. Indian case is mentioned there. It may be used that way. Assumption is supporting that point. Second, when input and output prices are both deflated against a single input price, it is referred to as double. It is just against the para. It is distorting the given information. Double deflation means separate hai. It is not the same. It's not the single input price. So of course second is incorrect. Your answer should be A for 67. And now I think it's the last passage. Kalagram talks about the Mahakumbh Mela, and the Kalagram was there. The cultural village set up at Mahakumbh Mela unfolded as mosaic of India's diverse regions, each represented by 7 meticulously crafted Sanskriti Angans. Stepping through the grand portal was like entering another world. These thematic zones, inspired by iconic temples like the Mandir, were treasure troves of regional artistry. Now, coming to first question number 76, conclusion. This is the favorite word now for UPSC examiner. Most of the time they have used word conclusion. 7 Sanskrit Angans representing different regions of India had been showcased in Kalagram. Yes, correct. So 1 is correct, B is gone. Okay. 2 regional artistry. From here I will go to the 4th one. Art forms from all regions of India had been showcased in these living galleries. All regions is not given, different regions is given here, right? So, but all becomes very specific. The 4th is incorrect. When 4th is incorrect, your C option is gone. It means now the decider is either 1 is there, 2 or 3, between 2 and 3, right? It was one of the questions which can be termed as difficult or confusing. Right, for such questions I kept saying in the classroom that if 23 questions are given, you may always skip 10%, yani 2-3 questions you can skip. But 20 questions everyone must have got correct here. Right. अब इसमें second और third में देखें. Regional artistry was recognized. Why the inspiration drawn from iconic temples? Regional artistry was recognized. Why the inspiration drawn from iconic temples? Yes. as it comes from here, inspired by iconic temples. These thematic zones were inspired by the iconic temples. They were treasure troves of regional artistry. These temples were the treasure troves of regional artistry. Let me read the last word. These thematic zones, inspired by iconic temples, were treasure troves of regional artistry. Regional artistry was recognized via the inspiration drawn from iconic temples. And third says India's ancient history had been crafted by the contemporary craftsmanship of 230 artisans into creations to behold. An ancient history had been crafted by this. I think the third statement, you look at the last part, it says, देखिए यहाँ ये कहता है Tamil Nadu, and all were showcased in these living galleries where 230 master artisans breathed in life into them, using age-old techniques, their hands shaping India's ancient history into creations to behold. So it's like in a metaphorical sense, the author is saying that their hands shaped India's ancient history. They shaped. And third says India's ancient history had been crafted by the contemporary craftsmanship. Contemporary craftsmanship of 230 artisans into creation. India's ancient history had been crafted. So I will go for this statement number 2. The regional artistry was recognized by the inspiration drawn from iconic temples, right? And then of course the first one. The third one is like in the passage it is mentioned there in a way that like it looks like in a metaphorical way that India's history they recreated there. And this one is saying India's history had been crafted by these. It sounds as if they did it. But the 1 and 2 is a better option combination. Third one is doubtful. So I'll go for option A. And second, question number 77. Which of the statement not correct? Not correct. Paintings from 4 states of India have been mentioned. Up 4 states are not mentioned. It is the easiest place. Painting from 4 states. Painting from just 2 states are mentioned there. So Bengal's Pattachitra paintings, right? फिर paintings आ गई Tamil Nadu's paintings. So dear 2, not 4. So not correct में तो first statement is obviously not correct. All the 3 statements follow it. B says stepping into cologram is likened to stepping into another word directly given in the paragraph. The angans have been described as living galleries. Yes. Cologram is divided into thematic zones inspired by well-known temples of India. Yes. They are given. So not correct is only option A. A is the answer for 77. So that was your paper 2026 and 23 questions just based on 11 passages. The good thing was that the number of passages was so low, and based on every passage except one there were 2 questions. The one passage had 3 questions on it. So in terms of the time, it was not going to increase your cognitive load from RC section. However, communication question was a shocker and surprising element, and that was going to take a little more time. So that's it. I hope that you all will clear it. Thank you so much.